composition and that healthy eating long term and make it work for you. And so these are things you want to think about as you start thinking about nutritional interventions and what might work for you. And that kind of sort of highlights what are Canadians doing. Now, these are bullets. These are tidbits of info that have come out of the Canadian Community Health Survey data and various sort of, I think, important pieces of information as it relates to how Canadians are eating right now. Right? So, do we even need to improve what Canadians are eating? Do we need to address the overweight and obesity with just diet? I'm going to say yeah, because what have I learned? Nearly half of all Canadians that participated in this survey said that they think they have very good or excellent eating habits. So they think that what they're doing day to day is what Health Canada and what, medical practitioners are advising as it relates to eating well, eating a healthy, balanced diet, which is pivotal and critical in NAFLD-NASH. Okay. And the majority of Canadians say they actually eat from home. Okay, so you think you're eating well, you think you're eating and doing a good job because you're making foods from home, which is what's recommended, right? You don't want to really eat out. Don't want to go to the fast food establishments unless it's like a treat or you're on a long, car ride somewhere and you're just desperate for some food, okay? And that's really important to know. But when we actually dig deeper and when we actually look at what Canadians are eating, Canadians are snacking a lot. So nearly a quarter of total caloric intake comes from snacking. And I'm going to talk about snacking because I think I might blow your mind with what a snack is as it relates to healthy, well balanced eating versus what the kind of sort of culture has considered to be a snack. We also note that Canadians consume a lot of sugar, sugary drinks. Okay. Now, that could be juices. It doesn't matter if it's organic and it doesn't matter if it was handmade. Juice is sugar water. That's all that it is. Okay. There is really no nutritional benefit to it. It's just giving your body sugars. And fruits are natural sugars. Wouldn't debate that at all, but they're still sugars. The body doesn't really know that a sugar came from an organic orange or if it came from Tang powder. It just knows that sugar's in the body. Okay. Canadians are not meeting their fruit and vegetable needs per day. Okay. We're well below recommended. And Canadians are not eating enough whole grains. Okay. So, what do we know? We know that if you eat energy dense foods that are high in fat and low in fiber, you will be at higher risk of developing overweight and obesity. And those types of foods and that type of intake actually parallels what this survey data is trying to highlight is that all Canadians can do a better job at eating better and eating healthy. And that's why I highlight that this isn't meant to just be for a patient. When we talk about healthy lifestyles, it's for everyone in Canada. So, what does the typical sort of North American Western diet look like? It is rich in processed meats, processed foods, sweet foods, really high fat, energy dense foods. It's low in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and legumes. Okay, legumes are peas, beans, lentils. Okay, they're a whole family of very healthy, high fiber, high protein foods that Canadians typically aren't eating a lot of. Instead, what we're advising is we're talking about healthy eating, and the Mediterranean approach is one that is actually very comparable to what Health Canada is recommending right now. What's Health Canada saying in terms of healthy eating? So in 2019, for those of you who are not familiar, Canada's Food Guide to Healthy Eating got a complete overhaul. It got totally reworked, looking at what the recommendations were, kind of sort of abandoning this concept of serving sizes and food groups, just to tell people, let's simplify this. What do we want to tell you? We want to tell you to eat whole, fresh foods more often, not packaged foods, not processed foods. You want 50%, half of all your meals and snacks to be made up of vegetables and, fruits. Complementary fruits, right? Because I always tell people too, you can eat a lot of fruits, which is great, and it gives you fiber and antioxidants and micronutrients, but it still gives you calories, right? So fruits can still give you an abundance of calories that's not needed. So I focus on vegetables for that reason because they are not calorie rich options, but they're very filling options with lots of great fibers that are yum, 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 loved by your gut microbiota. Okay. They just love them, right? You want to choose more whole grains for that reason too. And we'll talk about what a whole grain is because honestly, I never remember what it is. I have to go on Google to get the definition, right? You want to eat proteins daily. You want to eat them with your snacks and meals, but you might want to consider not eating so much meat. Okay. A lot of saturated fat, a lot of calories in meats. You might want to eat some more plant based proteins. And you definitely want to choose water. Choose water as your beverage all day long more often than not. We'll talk about kind of sort of drinks and all the hidden sugars that might not be obvious. And how do we know that the sugars are there? You read the label. Take the time, increase your knowledge about what you're purchasing and what you're actually putting in your mouth. And so I love this picture. Okay, now I did get this. I accessed this online from Children's Hospital in America, but I thought what it showed is how do we reduce sugars? One easy strategy every day that we can all do is drink more water. Look at a sports drink, for example. I often see children drinking sports drinks and they're not participating in sports. Sports drinks were designed to give glucose to replenish the stores that were used up to generate energy to participate in an activity. And then it gives you electrolytes because you lose them while you sweat. Well, if you're not moving and sweating and increasing your heart rate, you don't need a sports drink, right? Or how about sweetened teas? Lots of people think all natural organic tea, you buy it bottled, but if you don't read the label, it could be full of sugar. Look how many teaspoons of sugar there are in fruit juices and in beverages like pops and soda pops. It's a lot of sugar. The other thing is when you read a nutrition label, you want to look for words like sugar, sucrose, fructose, high fructose corn syrup solids. These are all hidden sources of sugar that you may or may not be aware of. One of my favorite examples is ketchup. I think it's usually the second, sometimes even second and third ingredient on a label. And I'll review with you how Health Canada has increased information to consumers about the products that they're buying. Okay. The other thing, that I wanted to mention is that alcohol is also a source of sugar. And so while we don't come across it a lot in pediatrics in terms of patients drinking or over consuming alcohol, you do want to drink it in moderation. We get it. Red wine has antioxidants, it's good for heart health, okay, but in moderation. The other thing I can't stress is vegetables, vegetables, vegetables. When in doubt, cut up a cucumber, eat them. When in doubt, take baby carrots, munch on them. Vegetables should be a part of every single meal that you're eating in some capacity. Okay. Consider the season. If it's not in season, I get it. I'm just looking outside the window here. It's a little bit of a foggy day. We're in early spring. There's not exactly a lot of produce in Canada. You know, look at frozen options and how you can incorporate them into your meals. All right. You want to think about how you're making vegetables. A lot of people, I hear them say, "Oh, I don't like the taste of it." All right. Well, give it a jump start. Do something to it other than boiling it. Because I will say boiling vegetables gives them often a very mushy, puree baby like texture that's not as appealing. You want to maybe maintain that crispness, that rawness. Use things like olive oil and herbs and lemon juice and vinegars and really enhance the texture and the taste of vegetables. Barbecue season's around the corner. Grill them in the winter time, if you can. Some people don't mind barbecuing in the winter. We do live in Canada after all. Don't forget to use your vegetables with your starches. There's a great abundance of options available in frozen aisles now, like cauliflower rice, which you may not think of at first, but if you mix it with rice that you're cooking, wild rice and brown rice or red rice and black rice, not just instant starchy rice, you can actually build into your meals, build it into lasagnas, build it into stir fries, build it into salads. It is definitely not only flavor providing, but it is so good for your gut health. Whole grains. Think about that goodness that Mother Nature has provided us to not just nourish us, but to also feed our gut microbiome. Okay, so what is a whole grain? Basically, a whole grain is the whole thing. Okay. When you process grains to create things like starches or flours, you're taking away that outer part, that bran that provides the fiber. Okay. And you're also taking away the germ. All right. And so what you're left with is just the starch, which of course has a purpose. But you want more of that whole intact grain in your diet. And this is different than seeds. Okay. This isn't poppy seeds or sesame seeds or flax seeds or chia seeds that you might have in your diet. This is the whole intact grain. And so what are some options that you can include in your diet? Think of things that maybe are outside of the scope of your usual carbohydrate sources. Like I like to say, instead of a side of potatoes, have a side of buckwheat, otherwise known as kasha in other parts of the world, okay? Or quinoa. Quinoa is also a great source of protein. Gram per gram, it's almost the same amount of protein as chicken provides, which is a great source when you start building beans and other things into salads or maybe more hotter temperature type dishes, such as like a rice stir fry. There's also uncommon whole grains like teff or millet that you can purchase at stores and use them and incorporate them into your diet. And don't forget roll hold oats. We have a lot of oats in Canada, and there's lots of creative ways where you can incorporate them into your diet, such as your snacks. Now, we chatted a little bit about earlier Canadians eating a lot of snacks, and I love snacks. I really do. But what I got to say is when I go into a grocery store, an establishment that sells food, because I don't live on a farm and I don't farm my own food, right? So I go to the store like most other Canadians to get my food. And you go into the snacking aisle and it looks like the pictures that I have here. Those are not snacks. Those are treats. Okay. The way that I look at snacks is particularly for children, they are meant to sustain the nutritional needs for growth and development. So if it's something you wouldn't serve on your dinner plate or your lunch plate, it's not really a snack. A snack is meant to be a mini meal that holds you throughout the day. So cookies, potato chips, granola bars, um, you know, highly sugared nut mixes. These are the things that you really want to limit in your diet and avoid as much as possible. And what you want to do is you want to build snacks that have vegetables in them, a source of protein, and whole grains. That's how you can increase and meet your recommended needs throughout the day. And there's all kinds of ideas that you can do. Like one of my favorites is to create your own oat granola. It's really easy. You put it on a baking sheet, and there's lots of ideas and recipes online. A touch of maple syrup, maybe a little bit of cinnamon. You bake that up, and then you just sprinkle it over a real yogurt. Okay. Yogurt, what I mean when I say real, it means it hasn't been unprocessed. It hasn't had a whole bunch of sugar added to it. It isn't a drinkable. Okay. It's yogurt, it's thick, it's creamy, and then you put real fruit on top and you build that and you get a delicious parfait. Depending on the portion size, it might be a snack or it might actually be a meal like a breakfast, and these other kinds of ideas that build upon what we know in addition to losing weight, but also eating healthy.